Guess she'll be here when she get here. And good evening. Somebody just popped in. Excuse me. Hello, Jaden. How are you? Thank you for coming through. And Sir Jacob, if you can hear me, thank you for sharing the video out. Okay, folks, we're having a little technical difficulty. Let's see. Ah, there we go. All righty. Here we are. All righty, we're going to get started. And as soon as I can get. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? I guess you can hear me. You responded. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I don't know what happened with that link.
Well, glad I'm here now.
Yes. And how things going?
Good. How about you?
I can't complain. I'm feeling a lot better.
Good. Good. Glad to hear it.
I want to thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And guess I'll just go ahead and introduce you.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're more than welcome. This evening, my guest is Pavita Singh. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Hot dog. I'm getting better at this. She is the executive director at Girls Health Ed, which is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance gender equality by fostering healthy, informed, and empowered decision making in adolescent girls and young women, ages 8 and older through comprehensive health and sexuality education. Ms. Singh is a graduate of Yale University, where she received her Master of Public Health in Social and Behavior Sciences, and she is also a poet, something we'll talk about later on. Pavita, could you just give us well, I have one question first.
Mm-hmm.
It says you are a polymath.
Yeah.
Could you explain to, I really want to know what that is. I looked it up, but I would rather hear it from you and maybe get a better definition.
Sure thing. I love the word. My best friend taught it to me. Essentially, my definition of a polymath is someone who's well versed in a lot of different subjects. Someone who knows a lot about a lot.
Okay. There we go. That just about does it. Now, can you talk about Girls Health Ed and what you all do there?
Yeah, so you gave a really awesome introduction about our mission, which was great. So, and to reiterate what you talked about, our mission is to advance gender equality. And we do this by providing medically accurate, gender transformative, and intersectional health and sexuality education to adolescent girls and young women ages 8 and older. Particularly those from low-income, underserved communities where they're unlikely to receive the type of information that we offer either in their home or their school environment. So we have a very, as I mentioned, comprehensive curriculum that covers issues around nutrition, physical activity, body image, self-esteem and goal setting, puberty and personal care, violence prevention, healthy relationships and consent, menstruation, and reproductive health. And the way that our model works is that we have trained teaching fellows who are young women, typically between the ages of 18 and 35, but at least age 18. And they serve as near peer mentors to the girls and young women we serve. So these are typically college students or graduate students or young professionals who are in the field of health and medicine or public health or child development, education, or some sort of related field and who are passionate about our mission. And we train them in our curriculum and in the logistics of classroom management and our programs. And essentially we give them an experiential learning program. So they're the ones who are actually working on the ground directly with the girls and young women we're serving. Currently, we have programs both in the US and in Kenya. We've also done some pilot programs in India and Bangladesh. And we are currently working to expand to other areas around the world. So currently within the US, we're active in New York, DC, LA, and New Orleans. And as I mentioned, we're trying to expand to other cities within the country. And then within Kenya, we have programs in 3 major cities, so Kagelo, Nyamira, and Nairobi. During the pandemic, most of our work has taken place in the urban slums in Nairobi. I personally have had the pleasure of teaching workshops both in the US and in Kenya, and it's been an incredible experience. So we've been doing our programs and our workshops with the girls for about 7 years now. And to date, we've served about 6,500 girls and young women across all of our program locations. We've trained over 150 teaching fellows. And so far, we have exhibited some pretty amazing results. So before the start of our first set of workshops with the girls and after the last set of workshops, we distribute pre and post surveys to the girls. And the results of our survey so far have shown that between 85 and 90% of the girls feel more comfortable talking to their parents about the topics presented in the curriculum. Between about 95 and 99% of the girls feel more confident that they have positive qualities outside of how they look. Around the same percentage of girls are correctly answering questions about menstruation and puberty and safer sex, and actually express feeling more comfortable talking to romantic partners or sexual partners about consent and about safer sex practices and what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with. We've also had some really powerful anecdotes that have been shared with us by our school and community center partners. So, for example, one story that always stands out to me is that, in one of our community centers, we were told the story of a group of boys who was bullying a group of girls because they had had their periods. And the girls who had participated in our workshops were actually able to step in and educate the boys and prevent that bullying. And so this is just evidence that shows that our workshops are having an impact and can actually serve to create healthier school environments and communities for the girls and young women we're serving, which is really important because, I'm sure, as all of you are aware, puberty is a very confusing and stressful time for everybody, boys and girls alike. And both boys and girls experience a drop in confidence during puberty. But what we find is that by the time they reach adulthood, young men are more likely to get that confidence back, whereas young women are not. And so this leads to a gender confidence gap throughout the lifespan, which then prevents girls and young women from, or by the time they're adults, young women and ladies from fully being able to reach their potential and fully participate in activities to the same degree that their male counterparts are. And so one of the core premises behind the work that we do is that when we reach girls and young women from a young age, starting at the age of 8, with information about their bodies, themselves, their emotions, their relationships, that, has a lifelong effect. And, because there are some really horrifying and depressing statistics out there. For example, worldwide, at least 2/3 of girls have no idea what's going on when they have their first period. And girls on average are missing 20% of the school year because of issues with menstruation management or body image issues. And so, that serves to put them behind their male counterparts in their education and then ultimately in the workforce. And a country's economic well-being is directly tied to the health and the education of its girls. And so, as I mentioned, when we start at an early age, teaching girls the skills that they need to know to take care of their bodies, themselves, how to communicate, how to, handle any of the issues that they might be facing, this serves to have a lifelong effect. And I would just love to actually give a shout out, Uncle David, to your niece, Tavia, who's the one who connected us. So Tavia is one of our amazing and talented teaching fellows in the DC area. Amazing woman, incredibly passionate about the work that we're doing, and has already had an amazing impact on the girls. So she recently did her first set of workshops in the Southeast DC area. Okay. And, she shared some very powerful stories with me. So, for example, she was telling me about one young lady, about 8 years old, who confided in her that she was hurting herself because she was experiencing bullying in school. And, through the workshops that Tavia led, she, even the site coordinator at the community center where she was doing these workshops, noticed a change in this young woman in particular, but also in the other young ladies who participated in the workshop. So that was really great to hear. And, this year, everything has been virtual. We're slowly starting to return to in-person workshops. And Tavia did a very nice thing by actually surprising the girls with an in-person visit for her last session. And they just loved it. They loved the experience of being able to meet her and just talk to her. And so, yeah, that's what brought us together. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Tavia for connecting us.
Well, actually, she just came in the room, so she is here. She heard that. Yeah, she's special. She really is. I figured that out when she was a little girl, that there was something about her, and I guess it is taken. You go through life and you have your experiences, and so it takes you a while sometimes to figure it out. But yes, she is passionate about what she's doing, and I think that is great. It is my hope that everyone that is involved in the program is as passionate, because as the grandfather of three girls, I understand the importance of learning the things that they need to know, especially about their bodies. And my daughter, she's really hands on with that, and so she's taught them some things. Now, with bullying, um, the way the internet has just boom, people can say things and not have to actually, it used to be the bully in the playground. Now it's the bully on the internet, and they can say all these things, and they really don't understand the effect that they have on the people that they're talking to, simply because they don't know, first of all, what they're going through, and to them it's maybe just like harmless, what we used to call joning, but it really has a big effect on people, and you have a lot of kids and teens and young adults that are committing suicide. Does your program, I heard you mention it, so I guess they do address bullying.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up an excellent point about how there used to be just the bully on the playground. And in fact, there's a quote that stands out to me about cyberbullying, which is that they used to just bully me at school, but now they also bully me at home. So with this, this age of cyberspace and digital devices, bullying has become so much more ubiquitous. So yes, absolutely. It is something that we address in our curriculum. And in fact, we just recently, during the pandemic, we added a new unit to our curriculum on violence prevention, healthy relationships, and consent. And a lot of that unit is largely based on my graduate research. So as you mentioned in my introduction, I graduated from Yale University in 2014 with my Master of Public Health in Social and Behavioral Sciences. And my, one of my biggest passions and what has gotten me into the field of public health was my interest in mental health, and a lot of cultural stigma surrounding mental health issues and how to address those, and how to help youth who might be struggling cope with issues around mental health. And so that, my own personal experiences with mental health issues played a huge role in my professional work now. So that was, what got me into this field. And my graduate research was based on an internship that I had done at Stanford University in 2013, where I was working with a professor to develop a healthy living skills program for high school girls at an all-girls high school out in the Bay Area in California. And one of the components of this program was cyberbullying. This is when, social media had been around at the time, but it was really starting to take off at the time and just gained so much more prominence. So cyberbullying and internet bullying was one component of this work of this program that I was helping to create. So that led to what I did for my graduate thesis, which was looking at how involvement in cyberbullying and a particular type of cyberbullying in which the victim and the perpetrator are in a dating or intimate partner relationship. So cyberbullying meets intimate partner violence, if you will. And so I was looking at how involvement in this cyber intimate partner violence was associated with a variety of mental health outcomes. So I looked at depression, anxiety, self-esteem, and self-efficacy. And I also looked at childhood trauma. And what I found was that childhood trauma really was a huge risk factor for later involvement in bullying and intimate partner violence, both as a victim and as a perpetrator. And so this really speaks to the importance of reaching youth at a young age so that we can really break that cycle of violence and start building empathy and getting youth to realize the impact that their words and their actions have on others. So yeah, it's very important. And as you mentioned, it continues to be a huge issue. It's it's very disheartening to know that there are so many suicides and attempted suicides related to bullying. And so absolutely, we address all components of violence prevention, healthy relationships, and consent in our curriculum, and that includes digital safety and cyberbullying.
Okay. Now, with mental health, it is great that you have a curriculum that deals with mental health issues. And I say that because, a lot of kids, their parents have mental health issues, so they are not able to, they never received any help, so they don't know how to recognize or even help their kids, and so it just keeps going and going. But then when they get involved with a program such as you all's, it is very beneficial, because at that point you can break the cycle, because now this child has learned how to address first they understand why they act the way they do, and then they're able to get somebody to teach them how to fix it or how to address it, and they can break that cycle and move on. And then when they have kids, if there's some issues, they are able to recognize it. So I commend you all for doing that. I think that it is important work, and it is necessary work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, what else do you all do there? I know you've addressed the bullying, the mental health, you had mentioned body image. I guess that goes along with body shaming, because there's a lot of that going on. Especially with the internet. Kids get up there, or even adults, they get up there and they do it, and they're not ashamed. But then you have so many people that just pile on and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. You're too big to be doing that, or you're too skinny to be doing that. And so now it starts to seep in. So how do you get a person that has gone through this to understand that it's all in them to push that aside and not worry about other people's opinions?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an excellent point. And so when we start off all of our workshops, we start by establishing ground rules and community guidelines. So we start by establishing that this is a safe space where anybody can talk about any experiences that maybe they personally have gone through, or people close to them in their lives have gone through. So we, start by creating that safe space for them to feel comfortable talking about their experiences and asking questions related to their experience and things that they might see. So body image is a huge component of our curriculum, and it relates to, as you mentioned, body shaming and, the type of images and messages that we might be exposed to in the media. So, one thing that we emphasize in our curriculum is that every body type is different, and no one body type is better than the other. So yes, there are, certain healthy behaviors that you should practice. And so that is related to, nutrition and physical activity, which we talk about before we get into kind of the nitty gritty of body image. So we talk about, what does it mean to, follow the guidelines of a healthy diet, or the guidelines of proper physical activity. And we talk about the many different forms that can take, and how we can get the girls to actually integrate some of those practices into their daily lives. But once we've addressed the health component, then we get girls to realize that the way that your body looks is unique, and every body type is different. And again, no one body type is better than the other. It's a matter of, are you happy? Are you healthy? Do you feel that your body is doing for you what it needs to be doing? If you're constantly, getting sick, or, falling behind in school, or feeling low on energy, not getting enough sleep, then maybe there are some issues that might need to be addressed. But if your body is by and large doing for you what it needs to be doing, and you're still able to get through the day with ample energy and doing everything that you need to do, then that's what's more important than how you actually look. And in the media, we're inundated with so many images that might tell us that tall, thin, these tall, thin figures are idealized and what we should aim for. And that's a very harmful message to perpetuate to anybody, but absolutely, especially for girls and young women. And so we talk about that. We talk about the role that media plays in our perceptions of ourselves. We go through different exercises, and we introduce girls to eating disorders and how to recognize them, and how to, if you or somebody you think that they might have an eating disorder or some, type of disordered eating, how do you address that? How do you help yourself or your friends through that? And then this is my absolute favorite part of the curriculum, is taking them through various exercises that get them to appreciate their uniqueness and their beauty. So we, give them this message that healthy and strong and fit is the new pretty. So again, it's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel. And the way that you look physically doesn't by any means determine your self-worth. And we get the girls to appreciate their uniqueness, their inner beauty, the things about themselves that they love that have nothing to do with how they look. And so we take them through lots of different activities that get them to appreciate this. And you'll see by the end of the workshops, these kinds of activities do serve to put them in a better mood. And we've been told even by some of our teaching fellows that the girls actually, after the end of the full workshop series, they actually like to come back to this particular exercise where they reflect about their internal qualities about themselves that they love, because then that just serves to help them feel more confident about themselves, which then, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, has a ripple effect in all areas of their lives.
Now, I understand. First, I want to congratulate you all on reaching your goal. I understand you had like a little fundraiser, and you all were trying to raise money. Can you talk about that? And like I said, congratulations on reaching your goal.
Yeah, thank you so much. And to any of our supporters who might be watching, thank you to all of you who helped us. So as I'm sure you're all aware, nonprofits, fundraising for nonprofits is not at all an easy task. And we are very reliant on fundraising, both from institutional and individual donors, for doing the work that we are able to do. So last week we had one of our biannual fundraisers, and the focus of this particular fundraiser was recovery from COVID-19. So as I was mentioning earlier, COVID-19 put, really impacted the way that we were able to do programs. So before the pandemic, everything that we did was in person. We, didn't really have a sense of doing virtual workshops until the pandemic, when everything switched to virtual. And then even as schools themselves were making the transition to virtual learning, our programs still had a bit of a hard time catching up, because our school and community center partners were overwhelmed with the transition to virtual learning and the health and well-being of their students. So it was very challenging for us to continue to do our workshops. But with persistence, we were able to push through. And starting in January of this year, 2021, we were actually able to start doing virtual workshops, using the online virtual learning platforms that our school and community center partners were already using. And while it has come with its challenges, so far I have been very pleased with the response to our workshops, because I think whether they're virtual or in person, obviously in person is always the best option. I think it's just really important for, being able to build a rapport with the girls, and, nothing beats that in-person interaction, especially when you're dealing with sensitive topics such as the ones that we cover in our curriculum. But if we're not able to have in-person workshops, which was the case during the pandemic, then obviously having virtual is better than having nothing at all. And as it turns out, the need for our workshops was heightened during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, so much of the progress that has been made over the past quarter century in regards to gender equality was slowly, had the risk of being reversed, but was, all the progress that had been made was unfortunately halted, and in some cases was reversed. So gender-based violence increased exponentially in all parts of the world, both here locally in the US and in other parts of the world. In Kenya, nearly 10,000 school-aged girls became pregnant due to gender-based violence. So girls, yeah, exactly. Girls around the world had to leave school, because of, not only because of school closures, but because of economic pressure for families. And so this led to an increase in child marriage and taking girls out of school so that they can work and provide for the families of their husbands and now their future kids. Because of supply chain disruptions, it was difficult for kids to get access to healthy foods and for girls to get access to menstrual products during their periods. So, and then school, which often provides a safe space for people who might be living in abusive households or in low-income households where they might not necessarily have access to a healthy meal, that was halted during the pandemic as well. So all of these issues, the combination of all of these issues made our programs even more urgent and just all the more critical. And so what this particular fundraiser that we did this year supported was in order to help us to safely return to doing in-person workshops, providing the girls and young women that we serve with much needed resources, including menstrual products, pads, tampons, other self-care products, whether that be masks or soap or journals for personal reflection, toothpaste, simple, products that so many of us take for granted. These are, items that a lot of the girls and young women that we're working with and their families just don't have access to. During the pandemic, we also received an influx of interest in our workshops, both from teaching fellows who wanted to get involved, but also from schools and community centers in different parts of the world who wanted access to our program. So this fundraiser will help to support that expansion. Over the next 5 years, as I mentioned, currently we're very active in 2 countries and we've done pilot programs in 2 additional countries. We're hoping that in 5 years, we'll be able to build a presence in at least 10 countries around the world. And within the US, we would love to expand to more major cities as well. So this fundraising appeal was able to help us support that. And then also one of the goals of this fundraiser was to build out a virtual learning platform. So, in many parts of the world, access to our curriculum and to digital devices continues to be an issue, but it's the girls and young women and families in the lowest income brackets who are the ones who most need our material, because comprehensive health and sexuality education has the power to transform lives and to lift communities, not only individuals, but also communities out of poverty. So, this support will also help us to build out a virtual learning platform that we would be able to give access to access of our curriculum to girls and young women who currently lack this access, but who need it most.
Well, you all are doing a wonderful job. Now, let's get to the poetry. Have you finished? Has the book been released? I know it said May of this year, but I'm sure you've been busy. But are you able to, is the book available or?
It is available.
Ah.
So yeah, it's called To All the Magic in Me. Anybody who's looking to order it, you can order your copy at magicwithpavita.com for $20 plus shipping. And I will mention that I will be donating a portion of all of the proceeds to Girls Health Ed. So by supporting the book, you're not only supporting me as an author, but you're supporting the health, the well-being, and the happiness of girls and young women everywhere, and helping us move one step closer to gender equality worldwide. So the premise behind this book, so as I mentioned, it's called To All the Magic in Me, and it is a collection of love letters to all of life's emotions. So it's a poetry book. There are 61 poems, and each poem is structured as a love letter to a different emotion. And this collection covers the whole range of emotions, both positive and negative. And so one of the messages that I'm trying to get across in this book is that, people often go through life trying to avoid negative emotions, which is totally understandable. Obviously, negative emotions don't feel good. And of course, everybody wants to be happy. But what they often forget is that negative emotions are a very, real and a very essential part of the experience of being human. It's an authentic part of the experience of being human. And in my opinion, happiness doesn't just mean the complete absence of negative emotions. It means being able to cope with negative emotions in a healthy manner. So, all of us experience negative emotions. And what I want readers and listeners to understand is that it is absolutely okay not to be okay. So we were talking earlier about social media and the images and messages that we're exposed to in media and in culture. And oftentimes we're inundated with these good vibes only or positive feel-good messages, which are great and are well-intentioned. But I think there's also the other side of the coin is that being inundated with those messages can actually be quite harmful, because it might make consumers of that kind of information, of those kind of messages, feel that having negative emotions isn't okay, and that it's not okay not to be okay, when in fact the opposite is true. So negative emotions do have a lot to teach us. When we're feeling a certain way, it might be our body or our mind's way of trying to tell us something. So if we can learn to embrace our negative emotions and see, try to understand what is the purpose that it might be serving in our life at a particular time, or what we can ultimately end up learning from them, and learn to see the light in those negative emotions as well as those positive emotions, that ultimately I think leads to a much more fulfilling life. And so, having both that combination of negative and positive emotions, sometimes having both even in the same day, or even in regards to the same situation, you can have multiple conflicting feelings, and that's okay. That's part of the human experience. That's part of our authenticity, and that is part of our inner magic. So that is essentially the message that I'm trying to get across. And this is, based on a lot of my personal experiences with mental health issues, but also just with general life experiences that I wanted to share.
Yeah, because when you said it's okay to not be okay, my daughter, during my bout with COVID, my daughter got on me about that, because she would say, "Hey, Dad, how are you?" And I would always say, "I'm good, I'm okay, I'm all right." But I was really, really sick. And because I just kept saying, I'm okay, I think what I did was suppress that. And she really got on me, and she said, "Dad, I know you don't like to complain, but it is important that when you're feeling bad, or that it's okay to say you feel bad, that you don't have to, carry that burden all the time. Our pride is what stops us. Our pride and our egos is what stops us from saying that there's something wrong, especially with men, more specifically men of color, because we've always been taught that we are the kings, we're the strong ones, we're not supposed to show any sign of weakness. And if you say that you're not okay, then that means there's weakness, that there's a chink in the armor. But the reality is, once you can show that, yes, you have a chink in the armor, that is actually a true sign of strength, because you're able to say, hey, there's something wrong. I need to fix it. Can somebody help me? So you have to figure that out, because we've been, like I said, we've been taught the opposite. But it's okay to just not be okay. If you're hurting, or if you're feeling bad, or if something's bothering you, then just say it. And once you say it, then it makes you feel better. So again, I'm going to put the website in the chat for anyone that is interested. Let's see. Hold on one second. Oops. And what's the website again, Pavita?
magicwithpavita.com.
Let's see if I got this right. Okay. Ooh, I'm getting pretty good. Yeah. So if anyone's interested, just click on that link and it will take you to the website, and you can purchase the book. Okay. You can pre-order it. All right. Yeah. I'm quite interested. I like to read. In fact, I love to read. That's something that my mother instilled in me from a little kid, was, reading. Once I got my glasses and could figure stuff out, she said that my entire life and my personality changed. So yeah, I encourage people to read anything, everything. You never know what you may learn or what comes of it. I want to open up for if anyone has any questions about the book, about the program, or even questions to Pavita. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Now, this is usually the hard part of the program. People tend to, they have all these questions, and then it's like, you know what? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't ask this question. But my mother should tell me, any question that you don't, the dumbest question is the one that you don't ask.
Exactly. But I love what you said about literacy and reading. My parents were the same way, instilling a love of reading since before I could even read myself. And I just think that that's so important. So I guess I'll start by asking a question to you. What's a good book that you're reading these days?
Right now I'm reading, there's a book that I have that someone sent me. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I also have been reading oh goodness, it's the book by Jack Canfield. I can't remember the name right now, but it's a bunch of stories.
Okay.
That people, they send in these stories and they go through this whole process, and then they African American Soup for the Soul. That's what it is. Yeah. So I love that series, the Soup for the Soul. He has different ones for teenagers, for mothers, for single women, married women, I think grandmothers. I mean, if it's you, there's a book in that series for you to read.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very interesting. The stories that are in there. There's some are people that you may recognize. Then there's some of people that are maybe just average people who had an experience and they wanted to share it.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
Yes. So I gather no one has any questions. But everybody is in agreement that you are doing an awesome job. Your program is great. I've been, I did a little bit of reading about it, when I was preparing, for the interview, and I like what I read, and also probably more so because I have granddaughters, and I know how important it is for young ladies, for girls, to know what's going to happen with their bodies, what's going on, why is this happening, because like I said, a lot of times they don't get that at home because their mothers, or their if they're with a single father, us men, there's certain things we don't understand. We know that it happens, but trying to explain it can be kind of difficult, and the message may not come through the way we want it. So I think what you're doing is great. It is. I mean, I commend you all. I commend Tavia for what she does, sharing her experiences and jumping right in there, and being able to do it, because being able to tell somebody something about yourself that is so personal is very difficult to do. We don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want somebody to, like I said, it shows weakness, but it actually shows strength. And as soon as we can get people to understand the message that it is strength that you are showing by sharing your adversity, what you've gone through, something that may have happened, that, the story that you have always been afraid to tell. I think that it's important to share that story, because you never know who's listening and who may need to hear it. So I think that's great. I really do. So I would like to thank you for sharing with us your knowledge and information about the program. Hopefully, people will look more into it. And even if they don't look into your specific program, that this will open up their eyes to understanding the process that girls and young women go through, and once they reach adulthood, why they feel the way they do, because sometimes you don't get that help. Everybody doesn't have access to these programs, so it's great.
Thank you so much.
And thank you again. I will be in touch.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you, Pavita Singh. She is the executive director of Girls Health Ed.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
All righty. You have a good evening.
Bye.
All right. Good night. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for spending time with us. How you doing, Sonia? Keto, G-Fam. Is that Taryn? Lily? My niece Tavi was in here. I thank you all so much. Aunt Maddie, of course. Jaden. So I will see you all. I'm going to go live again one day this week. So I would definitely see y'all. Thank you again for coming through. And remember to be happy on purpose, and know that I believe in you. Believe in you too. You all have a good evening. Good night.